What's going on, everybody? Thought I'd do a little video today, a little history video. There's two of the evilest men ever walked in the Smoky Mountains. They got their just doing one day at the courthouse. And if you want to pick this book up, right there's where I got it from, number and all. I think you can get it on Amazon, I'm not sure. But this is the story of the Whitecaps and the Bluebills of Sevier County. Now, I don't really want to go into the whole story right here. I don't have a lot of time. A brief history of it right now. I want to get into the death of Dr. Henderson, but I will tell you the Whitecaps was formed back in the right before the turn of the century, and it wasn't a racial thing. It wasn't racially motivated. It was people who thought they were going to do some good in the community by setting the evildoers right. It started out with a gang of people who thought this lady and her daughters wasn't living right. And someone said that they ought to don some hoods and go up there and drag those girls out and whip them good and teach them a lesson. And that's how it got started. They did. And they were known as the Whitecaps of Sevier County. And they struck fear in the hearts of people around here because it got to where people didn't know if they were going to be next. They went from what they thought was beating and killing and whipping bad people until just randomly whipping whoever they wanted to. And they had their way in this county. They did what they wanted to do. And nobody stopped them. Not one of them was convicted for a crime from 1892 till 1898. All convictions was overturned. They owned a judge around here. And they owned everything. They run the place until some people got tired of it. And they were actually called the Bluebills. And they donned, I'm not sure exactly, not a white sheep, maybe some sort of mask of some kind. But they actually hid their identity too. But the Whitecaps got to where they were murdering and killing so many people that if you left their organization, they would not come directly to your house, but they would go to your mother's house and they would drag her out in the middle of the night and beat her within an inch of her life, sometimes beat her to death. And if you had brothers, sisters, children, this is what they would do. They would show up at dark with their torches on horses, wearing their mask, and demand that you come outside. And if you didn't come outside, they would come in and get you. The beating would be all the same. There was many people died during these beatings. And if you can look at the contents of this book, you probably have to pause it and stuff. But if you look, you can tell that a lot of people were beaten, a lot of people were murdered, and a lot of people were hanged over a lot of this. But it was people think times are bad right now. This was a bad time to be alive in Sevier County because you never knew who was going to show up at your door. And it could be something as meaningless as passing somebody in the grocery store and bumping into them and not saying excuse me. They'd show up at your house 2 nights later. I mean, people around here lived in constant fear that they were next, or their mother was next, or their children was going to be beat. And when they did these beatings, they made you sit and watch as they beat your loved ones until it was your turn. And if they died during the beating, then so be it. They used buggy whips. I don't know if y'all know what buggy whip looks like, but it's kind of stiff all the way through until the end. It gets limber as it goes down. And I'm sure that hurt bad. But the Bluebills fought back and finally had their way and finally beat them down. And then the last two, what ended the war was these last two guys, they actually got caught committing a murder. These two right here, Ples Wynn and Catlett Tipton. And they were hung at Sevier County Courthouse. If you know anything about the Sevier County Courthouse, that's down there where the Dolly Parton statue is. They were hung there for thousands of people to see. They said the turnout was unheard of. So they killed some people along the river, the Little Pigeon River, and it got to where if you owed money to somebody and you didn't pay, right down to, I heard, if you was fishing in one of their fishing holes, they would show up at your house. So you never actually knew if you had made one of them mad or not, because the people really didn't know exactly who they was. They could make a movie on this, on these battles and these people involved. But today I was going to talk to you about Dr. Henderson. This little excerpt from the book here, this is a little bit of a history book here, and Dr. Henderson, he didn't fear anybody. He wasn't afraid of nobody. He was what you might call a modern day Wyatt Earp. He didn't fear anybody, and he would stand in battle and he would shoot back. I mean, he was a man to be feared, but also he was a generous man in the community, and he was also the leader of the Bluebills. And they had a battle at his house one day, and it got out that they were going to go there and they was going to kill him. And so happens that the Bluebills had a traitor, a Judas if you will, within the Whitecaps. So when they showed up at the good doctor's house, the Whitecap rode around back to make sure he didn't come out back. Well, when he did, he took his white hood off and donned the Bluebills clothes and come back around, and they shot and killed several Whitecaps, killing several of them. I think the book says there were 18 suicides the next day. And the reason it's pinned as a suicide is that's what the Whitecaps used to do. That was their MO, is if they killed somebody, they also pinned a suicide note and they would lay beside their body as if they had committed suicide. If they hanged them or whatever they done just to kill them, shoot them, they would leave these notes. Now, of course, if they beat them to death, they would just leave them laying without any note. So there were 18 suicides the next day in this county, the most that the county has ever seen. Still holds the records. Of course, there wasn't suicides. They said the Bluebills stood guard all night long at Dr. Henderson's while these wagons and horses kept coming back and retrieving bodies of the Whitecaps and placed them throughout Sevier County with a note on them. So a little revenge was enacted on them that night, but the Whitecaps would be back to Dr. Henderson's. And if I can, I would read you the death of Dr. Henderson, and then we'll go visit his grave over here, and then we'll get into the ghost story that surrounds his grave. But it's just a very short chapter. It says, in other chapters of this book, Dr. Henderson's name is often mentioned. He's described as the leader of the Bluebills. It should be told in the manner of how this man came to his death. His home was one of a show place in Sevierville. Dr. Henderson had money. Living not far from him was a man he called a friend, Bill Guest. Dr. Henderson heard that Bill Guest had made threats against his life. Dr. Henderson feared no man in the open. He proved that many times on his fight against the Whitecaps, man to man. But no man knows what may lurk in the darkness and the undercover of night. Dr. Henderson hired a guard to watch out for him. Sitting by his hearthstone at his fire at his home one night, when the guard had turned his back, a gun blazed in the yard. The load crashed through the window and blew the top of Dr. Henderson's head away. Bill Guest was arrested. He was kept in jail in Knoxville until the day of the trial in Sevierville. The jury acquitted him. So they had the jury in their hands for a long time around here. It was told that on Monday when you went in to sit into the jury, the judge would come back in the chambers and he would instruct you on how you were to vote. And if you didn't vote how you were instructed, someone showed up at your house a couple of nights later. Now that's the kind of things that went on, the kind of corruptions and kind of things that went on around here. Now Dr. Henderson, he was a good man. He helped a lot of people in the community. We'll get up and we'll go over here and visit his grave. I didn't want to stand beside it because it's right beside the road. But I read in the paper where it was actually double barrel shotgun that somebody stuck through the window of his home. Of course, we didn't have air conditioners back then, so the windows was open. And somebody had stuck this gun through the window and had gave him both barrels. I don't know, you hear different things. There used to be some stuff on the internet about Dr. Henderson. And I don't know if it's still on there or not. I hadn't looked, it's been a few years. But over here is the good doctor's grave. Now you can tell that this man had money by the kind of stone that he had put up back then. Imagine what it cost back then. Imagine what it costs today. Here lies Dr. J.A. Henderson. Born June 19th, 1861. Died November 30th, 1894. Now, I didn't want to read all that over here by his grave. Guess I'm a little superstitious. But the old story goes and the old sayings go that on certain nights that you can hear gunfire come from up here in the graveyard. You can smell gun smoke. On November the 30th, at the hour he was killed, it's told that you can hear gunfire and gun smoke. As I was a kid, another child that I used to play with, parents used to say that there would be a man that they would see up here walking around this graveyard, actually missing the top of his head. And it was supposed to be his spirit. And he would disappear behind the trees, behind the stones. Of course, back then it was dark at the nighttime up here. There was no street lights. There was no motels, hotels. There was no city to speak of. But I heard stories about that, about a man in a suit up here covered in blood. Other stories of a man looking for his killer with the top of his head missing. A lot of different pictures, a lot of wild pictures up here. There's a picture that I had taken that if you go to my community part of my channel, that was taken at a grave just right behind us there. Actually looks like a guy's face coming up out of the stone, and part of it's missing. I didn't actually realize I had caught that till my son showed it to me years later. Zoomed in on it, I didn't know what it was. It just looked like a white dot from a distance. But this is Dr. Henderson's grave. Like I say, he was a good man. Put this rock over here so they don't run over it when they mow. He was a good somebody. Helps a lot of people in the county. It's a shame that he died that way. If that was the guy who killed him, he should have hung. If it was the two guys in the back of this book, if it was Ples, Went, or Catlett Tipton, they did hang. I don't even know if the good doctor knows who it was. A lot of people used to come up here on Halloween night, sit around here and tell the story of the Whitecaps and the Bluebills. Ask Dr. Henderson if he know who killed them. A lot of spooky things. Of course, now you've got a paved road. This used to be gravel. Didn't have no traffic on it. That's been back in the days. If y'all remember, right there's the grave. Found the snake skin on one of my videos not too long ago. Just right here beside the good doctors. But anyway, I'll do some more videos on some of the stuff that happened around here. I think a lot of these people are buried in this graveyard. I've looked, I can't find their graves. I've looked in this old part right here, and then you've got the older forbidden part over there. That was before all this happened. But I can't find any of the other people, any of the other murderers. I found some of the other people that's been murdered up here. So it's no wonder they claim that this graveyard's haunted and people see things in the nighttime and stuff up here anymore. I say they claim, I didn't say one way or another. But anyways, I'll get off from here and if you're brave enough to come out here at the night time and visit the good doctor's grave, it's right there beside the road. It's easy to find. Just look for one of the tallest headstones you see. I don't know if I'd come at night time, and I sure don't know if I'd go over there and talk to him any about the white caps and the goings on in this county, because I'm assuming that he's still pretty upset about what happened to him. I don't know if there'll be anybody up here this Halloween night or not. I thought about sneaking off up here myself and seeing what was going on. I thought about it. Anyway, guys, I'll get back on here. Won't be that long, and we'll talk some more. See you guys soon.